What's good, everybody? It's the Cloud with Cab Show. The divisional round this weekend was a disaster for me. I went 1 for 3. Yes, I got the Kansas City game right, but the Detroit Lions blew it back. They blew it. Their defense and offensive coordinators out of Detroit, man. It just sucks, man. I'm looking at the Washington Commanders. They've got lucky, so lucky this year against the Chicago Bears with the lucky Hail Mary. Just a lot of luck, and I think that's going to come to an end. But I'm looking at the Detroit Lions, and I'm trying to figure out how they're going to blow this bag here. They lost 31-45. They're the number 1 seed. They got the home field advantage, yet they still lose. Yet Jared Goff threw for 3 picks. That's kind of a typical Jared Goff game. I mean, we go back to when he played the Houston Texans. He threw for 5 picks, yet they still won that game. And then we had Jameson Williams, the elite receiver. They wanted to get all tricky about it, and he throws a pick on like a reverse. Just really overthinking coaching here. Jahmyr Gibbs went crazy, over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. St. Brown went crazy, 137 yards receiving. Sam Laporta had a touchdown, but Lions just gave it all up, man. They battled through injuries on defense all season, but we look at the Washington Commanders and Jay Daniels, the rookie, man. 299 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Just went crazy, dude. I mean, insane. Brian Robinson Jr. had 2 touchdowns. It was just insane, man. Zach Ertz had a touchdown. Terry McLaurin had a touchdown. Washington Commanders literally are the most surprising team to me this year. It's like, really, bro? How are you guys going to run right through Detroit? The season Detroit had this year, it was heartbreaking. It was one of the most heartbreaking losses I've ever seen in NFL history, where it's like, bro, like, this was Detroit's year. Dan Campbell had them boys ready. He was crying after the game. I get that. High emotions, but looking at it from a bigger picture, it's like you cannot lose this game. This was a huge pivotal moment, and they just blew the bag, man. They really did. Hats off to Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels. It's crazy. I can't believe Jaden Daniels really just going insane like this as a rookie. It kind of reminds me of RG3 when he was a rookie in Washington, his rookie year back in 2012, 2013. It was like, wow, bro. That's insane. Then he gets hurt in the playoff game. But Jaden Daniels right now, man, he's the difference maker in Washington right now. He's the reason they're at where they're at. And they play Philadelphia in Philadelphia this week, and that's going to be a crazy game. But what an upset to beat the number 1 seed. I mean, we look at Detroit, they could have literally been undefeated up until this moment. Yes, they lost to Tampa, and they lost another game earlier this year, or later on in the season, but it was just one of them things where Dan Campbell and Detroit, guys cannot lose this type of game. You're at home, you're playing the Washington Commanders, bro. Like, how are you going to fumble the bag? It's the biggest surprise to me, but hats off to the Washington Commanders getting the job done. The one bet I did hit was the Kansas City Chiefs over the Houston Texans, 23-14. Patrick Mahomes, a decent game. Not really the Patrick Mahomes we're used to seeing. Just 177 yards passing and a touchdown. Travis Kelce went crazy, 117 yards receiving and a touchdown. Kareem Hunt had a touchdown. KC, you know, that's what they do. You know, KC's going to host the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be the best matchup all weekend. I can't wait for that matchup. But we look at Kansas City, yes, they did get the calls, but there's no excuse for the Houston Texans. Their field goal kicker freaking missed 2 kicks. So, you know, hey, you're going to miss field goals. You're going to lose the game in the playoffs. That's just how it goes. And C.J. Stroud, 245 yards passing with 42 rushing yards. Joe Mixon had a touchdown, 88 yards rushing. Nico Collins had 81 yards receiving. But Houston, man, they did everything they tried to do, but they just didn't do the fundamentals. Missing kicks, you know, getting some penalties. And we've seen that from Kansas City all year this year, where they're going to get the calls. And there was a call where Patrick Mahomes got tackled at the end of the play, and they called it helmet to helmet, and it was clearly not helmet to helmet. Anderson Jr. tackled him from Alabama, a top 3 draft pick. Tackled him just the right way, but they threw the flag. That's what they're going to do in Kansas City. We know the NFL wants Kansas City to win, so they're going to get these calls. That's just part of it. And then Patrick Mahomes slid on one play. They threw the flag. You know, it's part of the game, bro. Like, some of these calls are going to change the whole dynamic of the game, and it gave up 3 points for Houston for that penalty. It wasn't the right call, absolutely, but Kansas City's been getting these calls all season. So I wasn't surprised at all where Mahomes got 2 roughing the passer calls, 15-yard penalties that should have never even been called. That's just not how it is. But, you know, Kansas City, they have the refs on their side because the NFL wants them to three-peat. No team's ever three-peated ever in history of the NFL, so it makes sense. It's good business. Taylor Swift's dating Travis Kelce. That's better business for the NFL. More money for the NFL. That's all that matters. So, for the NFL's perspective, hey, Kansas City won. More money in our pockets. That's all that matters. So, hats off to the Kansas City Chiefs. I cannot wait till this weekend, man. I hope they get ran through by the Buffalo Bills. Hats off to Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City Chiefs on a big win. Then we had another big game, Philadelphia Eagles versus the LA Rams. Philadelphia won 28-22. I went LA before the snow started to hit. I thought LA was going to come out on fire, but the snow definitely played a factor. We look at Matt Stafford. He had 324 yards passing in the snow with 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams had over 100 yards rushing, although he did have a fumble. I think it was the start of the fourth quarter, end of the third, where Kyron Williams fumbled the ball. And they're coming down to score, and that's just part of the game, too, as well. As part of his home field advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles, Kyron Williams typically does not fumble the ball, but he did on that possession. That was the turning point of this game. Puka Nacua balled out, 97 yards receiving. Tyler Higbee had a touchdown, but Jalen Hurts just got by, 128 yards passing. He did have 1 rushing touchdown, like a 40-yard run. But, let me give some respect to Jalen Hurts here. He threw a touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown dropped it. He literally dropped the touchdown. So I'm looking at A.J. Brown with the book reading on the sideline. I think it's all fugazi. I think it's all just for clout. I really do. I think A.J. Brown was just mad at Jalen Hurts, and that's why he got this book out. I don't think he was really about this, bro. Like, that's just karma. Real life karma coming right back to you. A.J. Brown drops a touchdown pass. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, A.J. Brown. Like, this book stuff is just fugazi. I think it's silly. I really do. But although Philadelphia will probably make the Super Bowl this year, and they're going to run it back. 2 years ago, they were in the Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs. They lost that Super Bowl. But the difference with why Philadelphia is where they're at right now is because of one man and one man only, and that's Saquon Barkley. Saquon had 205 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Just crazy, bro. I mean, Saquon's the best running back in the league. He is the best player in the league. I even said it like a month ago. I said Saquon Barkley should be league MVP this year. He is the difference maker. Without Saquon Barkley, Philadelphia is a 500 team. They're out of the playoffs right now. Without Saquon Barkley, he's the difference maker, man. I think Saquon Barkley should be league MVP. They will never give it to a running back. It's always got to be a quarterback, but I just think Saquon there is the difference there in Philadelphia. Although Philadelphia does have a great defense, they have a great defensive line and secondary. Overall, Saquon is the difference there. He really is, bro. Like, Saquon is that dude. He's the difference, and that's why they're at where they're at right now. They host Washington Commanders in division rival, so that's going to be interesting. But obviously, I'm leaning more towards Philadelphia making the Super Bowl. The adjustments I want to see with Philadelphia is Jalen Hurts in the passing game. I don't want to see drop passes from A.J. Brown anymore. He had 2 this game. That's not acceptable in the playoffs. Come on, A.J. Brown. I want to see some catches here. Give him some leverage here. But I think Philadelphia is rolling right now. We look at the Rams. It was a heartbreaking loss. Matt Stafford played well. Puka played well. Even though Kyron Williams did have a fumble, he played well. But they just came up short. But Sean McVay, the coach that he is, the LA Rams will be back in the playoffs next year. I'm telling you that right now. They're only going to get better, and they have a great coach. But shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, man. They get another home game. It's probably going to be in the snow again in the blistering cold. I cannot wait. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley. Let's go! And then I had the last game all weekend, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills. I picked the Baltimore Ravens in this matchup, and they lost 25-27. I'm not going to blame it all on one person, even though Lamar had 2 turnovers in the first half, had 1 pick, although that did not lead into points. He did have a fumble scooped up by Von Miller, who returned it about 40 to 50 yards. That led to points. So we look at Lamar and say, well, he did this, but also Lamar battled back through adversity. He had 254 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, the fumble loss and the interception in the first half, but, he battled back. He really did. And Derrick Henry had 84 rushing yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had a touchdown. Bateman had a touchdown. I mean, they went crazy. They really did. My thing is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, the reliable tight end for Baltimore, has been doing some great things in Baltimore. Well, it's 19-24. They're coming down the field to score. Mark Andrews fumbles the ball. The very next possession, the Bills kick a field goal. Now they're down by 8. Now the next possession, Lamar comes down the field, scores a touchdown. They go for 2 to tie the game. Mark Andrews drops the ball. in the corner of the end zone. It's just untypical. I'm kind of still in shock how Mark Andrews is going to drop that 2-point conversion. And Lamar just put it out on him perfectly. Lamar, actually made it softer throw to, all right, bro, this is a guaranteed catch. You're wide open. No one's 2 or 3 yards from you. All you got to do is catch the ball, and it's a tie ball game with a minute to go in Josh Allen's hands, which probably would have won by a game-winning field goal, but we don't know that. That was huge, man, and I'm not going to place it all on Mark Andrews. I mean, Lamar had that fumble in the second quarter, scooped up by Von Miller, just trying to make the extra play. But overall, man, it sucks for the Ravens, man. It come up short year in and year out in the playoffs. The year before that, Zay Flowers fumbled on the 1-yard line. Man, it's heartbreaking losses from Baltimore right now. And, I hate it. I hate it for Lamar Jackson because they're going to place the blame on Lamar Jackson, even though Lamar battled back in the second half to tie the score and literally had it right there in Mark Andrews' hands, and he drops the ball, bro. How are you going to drop this, Mark Andrews? It's unacceptable. You cannot do that. But Lamar, the leader that he is, he said, hey, we're going to ride with Mark Andrews. That we're not placing it all on one person, even though Lamar had two turnovers in the first half. I still feel bad for Lamar. This was the Ravens' year to do it. You have Derrick Henry still going crazy every single play, bro. It's crazy. Derrick Henry's 32, 33 now. He's only getting older. I do think he'll be back next year, but it's for the Baltimore Ravens, man, you guys are going to have to step up in the playoffs. I think the window is closing there in Baltimore for Lamar. It's only getting smaller now. It's you're going to have to go through Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in the playoffs. It's not getting any easier. So I expect Baltimore this offseason to make some huge adjustments, add some key pieces for Lamar. What I mean by that, add a superstar receiver for Lamar Jackson. That's what you got to do. I think Mark Andrews is out of there. I think Isaiah Likely's going to take over that tight end spot, which he should be. Isaiah Likely's been stepping up this year. Even last year started to step up. But I'm looking at, the Baltimore Ravens, just another disappointing loss. Not as disappointing as the Detroit Lions losing to the Washington Commanders. But for Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, man, I think he's 3-5 in the playoffs now. It's not looking good right now for Lamar. Lamar's got all these MVPs, all these accolades, except a Super Bowl championship. That's what Lamar is missing. So I think Lamar next year is going to do great things as well in the NFL, but it's just a long season to get back to that spot in the playoffs again. It's going to be a long shot for the Ravens, man. Like I said, the window's closing for Lamar Jackson. They're going to have to turn it up a notch. They really are, but hats off to freaking Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Even though Josh Allen did not have the craziest game ever, he had 127 yards passing. James Cook had 67 yards rushing. Shakir had 67 yards receiving. It was a team effort for the Buffalo Bills. If the Buffalo Bills want to beat Kansas City this weekend, they're going to have to be able to run the ball. James Cook is going to have to run the ball. Davis, they're going to have to do that 3-back system that they do. And Josh Allen's going to have to play flawless. He's not going to have any interceptions whatsoever to beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. That's the most intriguing matchup. I can't wait for that matchup. But hats off to the Buffalo Bills. I feel sorry for Lamar, though. He battled all the way back for his tight end to fumble one possession, then the very next possession drop a game-tying pass for a 2-point conversion to tie the game and possibly take it to overtime. It's disappointing for the Ravens, man, but that's playoff football. Hats off to the Buffalo Bills, man, but the most disappointing team all weekend is definitely Detroit Lions. The season they had, all the key players they had, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, they had David Montgomery back, Sam Laporta, St. Brown. They had so many great players, but Jared Goff, man, he was one of those games where you look at it and say, well, he's had 5 interceptions in one game this year. I should have looked at it more from a different perspective where if Jared Goff throws for over 2 interceptions, the Detroit Lions are going to lose a playoff game, and he threw for 3. So that was the difference there. Jared Goff did not play well. I'm not going to put it all on Jared Goff, but the defense for Detroit's been banged up. Ever since Aiden Hutchinson went out with that leg injury, I think at week 7 or 8, their best defensive end, ever since then, they've been going downhill defensively for the Detroit Lions, and I should have been more on it. I can't even be mad at myself. I should have been more on it to be like, hey, Detroit Lions defense is trash. And that makes sense. Jane Daniels put up 45 points on Detroit. In Detroit, the number 1 seed, man. It's disappointing, but, that's part of the playoffs, man. You got to get some luck here. You got to play your best football in the playoffs, and the Detroit Lions didn't. Even though they were number 1 seed, they had a great season. They just choked it away. That's the biggest surprise of me all weekend, but next weekend, I cannot wait. Kansas City, Buffalo Bills, Washington versus Philly. Hey, this is playoff football. One play can change the whole dynamic of the game. That's why I said when you're playing Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, they're going to get the calls here. So Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, you guys have to expect they're going to get a call or two in their favor no matter what. That's what they've been doing all year. So you're just going to have to play with that. You're going to have to play with that disadvantage for you. You're just going to have to, bro. You're going to have to go around it. No excuses whatsoever. I want Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to come in Kansas City and beat Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City has that ability to three-peat. I really don't. I just seeing them this year, they're barely scraping by team. Yes, they're winning games, but this is the top-notch Buffalo Bills. They already beat Kansas City earlier this year in Buffalo. I want to see flip the script, Josh Allen, please. Please, against all odds, so I cannot wait. It looks like it's going to be Buffalo versus Philadelphia, or can we get a rematch from 2 years ago? Philadelphia versus Kansas City. Who knows, but this is the NFL playoffs. It's the Cloud with Cam show. Let's go!